I'm Kathleen. I'm with the Member Service Center, and today we're going to be presenting on the recognition of women in military service. October 18th marks the anniversary of the Military Women's Memorial, which was dedicated on October 18th, 1997, at the entrance of the Arlington National Cemetery to honor all women who have served in the U.S. military. Since the American Revolution, 3 million women have served in or with the armed forces, overcoming decades of obstacles for more than 200 years to get to where they are today. Although women were not always permitted to enlist in the U.S. Armed Forces, many still found ways to serve their nation. Wives, mothers, sisters, and daughters of the Continental Army traveled with them, mending clothes, preparing meals, and cleaning the laundry and cannons. During the Civil War, women began to serve as nurses in an official capacity. Approximately 3,000 women served as nurses for the Union Army during the war. Despite restrictions, some women marched straight to the battlefield. Historians estimate that about 1,000 women disguised themselves as men and fought on both sides. The 20th century marked the big shift for women in the military. When the U.S. was entering World War I in April 1917, the U.S. Army Nurse Corps had only been established for less than 20 years and had 403 nurses in its active duty ranks. By June 1918, just over a year later, there were more than 3,000 American nurses deployed. World War I also marks the first time women who did not yet have the right to vote were allowed to serve openly in the U.S. military. After finding a loophole in a naval act that would allow women to serve in non-commissioned officer and non-combat roles, the Navy enlisted its first yeomanettes. Roughly 12,000 women served in the rank of yeoman, working with clerical duties, as well as telephone and radio operators and translators. U.S. Army Single Corps enlisted women, nicknamed Hello Girls, often worked close in the front lines in France. World War II created a large need for service members, with a majority of more than 16 million Americans serving on the front lines being men. The U.S. military was left with many vacant non-combat roles. So, American women stepped up, and for the first time in history, all branches of the military enlisted women in their ranks. In total, nearly 350,000 American women served in uniform during World War II. Many of these women served on the front lines and came under enemy fire, with some being awarded combat decorations. Army Colonel Ruby Bradley, a nurse in the U.S. Army Nurse Corps, was kept prisoner at an internment camp in the Philippines for 37 months. During this time, she remained faithful to her calling as a nurse. She performed 230 major surgeries and delivered 13 babies during her time as a POW. In total, 432 women were killed in the line of service during World War II, and 88 were taken as prisoners of war. After the war, many women returned home, hoping to continue their military careers, only to find themselves pushed out of their roles by men arriving at the same time. Some women would struggle for decades to obtain veteran status or benefits for their service during World War II. Due to their perseverance and dedication to service throughout a war, a path was laid for future generations of servicewomen. I'm now going to hand the realm over to my teammate Amanda, and she's going to wrap up the presentation.
Good morning. In 1948, 3 years after the end of World War II, President Harry S. Truman signed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act into law, officially allowing women as full, permanent members of all branches of the armed forces. 1 month after the act's passing, President Truman issued the Integration of the Armed Forces Executive Order, desegregating the military and ensuring that Black women could now serve equally in all branches of the military as well. This, however, was not a guarantee of equal opportunity. The act restricted the number of women who could serve to 2% of each branch and limited how many women could become officers, unable to command men, or serve in combat positions. Additionally, female service members could be automatically discharged if they became pregnant. Pregnant women would not be able to remain in the military until 2 years after the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War had ended. Once the Korean War broke out, 120,000 women would go on to serve in active duty positions from 1950 to 1953, taking new roles such as military police officers or engineering. In 1967, President Lyndon B. Johnson opened promotions for women to general and flag ranks, and in 1972, women were allowed to command units, including men. At the end and beginning of the 20th and 21st centuries, servicewomen were shattering expectations, setting lots of firsts. Although they could still not serve in direct combat roles or assignments, more than 40,000 women deployed to combat zones from 1990 to 1991. In 1994, President Bill Clinton rescinded the risk rule, allowing women to serve in all positions in the military except for direct combat roles. Then, in 2013, the ban on women in combat would be lifted entirely. In 2015, this was enacted, opening hundreds of thousands of jobs for women in the military, and if the necessary training and requirements were completed, they could now serve in almost any role in the U.S. Armed Forces. Women continue to make history in the military today, pushing boundaries, taking on roles, and climbing more ranks than ever before. More than 300,000 women have served in Iraq and Afghanistan since 9/11. More than 9,000 have earned combat action badges, and today women make up 17% of our nation's armed forces, serving in every branch of the U.S. military. There is so much more to be said about the fearless women who chose to put on the uniform and face the fight. The VFW is proud to support the women who have served our country, including the many we work with every day. Here at National, we have Mary Spencer in our Programs Department, Stephanie Butler in our Administration Operations Department, and Rosa Valdez, one of our Veterans Service Claims Consultants, Teresa Johnson in General Services, and Krista Weidel with Emblem and Supply. Our National Veterans Service in the D.C. office consists of a nationwide network of VFW accredited service officers and pre-discharge representatives, many of whom are women veterans. Today, we recognize them, as well as our D.C. employees, Christina Keenan, Joy Craig, Nancy Springer, Catherine Castle, Megan Coleman, Marion Farah, Julie Holt, and Miranda Drummond, as well as our Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, who through her service received the Legion of Merit Medal, Bronze Star Medal, 6 Army Commendation Medals, Army Achievement Medal, Good Conduct Medal, 2 Army Reserve Components Achievement Medals, National Defense Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, 3 Non-Commissioned Professional Development Ribbons, Army Service Ribbon, 3 Overseas Ribbon, Armed Forces Reserve Medal with M device, and the Combat Action Badge. Carol is the first woman to be elected VFW National Commander-in-Chief and continues to pave the way for future veterans. Thank you all for your service.